Now, Lou, when he was in the pumping iron, he was about 275. And that
Okay.
was in the mid 70s, of course, 1975. But here we are now 20 years later, and he was using the new supplements that were
Yeah.
available. And
Yeah.
now he was over 300 pounds. I mean, probably way over 300 pounds, probably like 320, 330, So,
Yeah.
I mean, much, much, much bigger than he ever was before.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Think Big Bodybuilding Media, and I am back today with bodybuilding historian John Hansen. What's going on, man?
Hey, Scott, how you doing, buddy?
Great to have you back. People really have enjoyed the reaction videos we've done, and I'm excited for this one today. This is, what is it, Standing Tall with Lou Ferrigno.
Standing Tall, yeah.
What is this? What year was this?
This was filmed in preparation for the 94 Masters Mr. Olympia. So it was kind of like a pumping iron, like takeoff, I guess. And it shows Lou coming back to bodybuilding. Actually, he came back 2 years before this when he went to Mr. Olympia in 92, 93. And then I think he realized he wasn't going to win the Mr. Olympia because he just was a little too old. And, he's going up against Kevin Levrone and Dorian and Sean Ray. And he's, those guys are much younger, better genetics. So the rumor I heard is that he talked Joe Weider into creating this Masters Mr. Olympia contest so he could have the title of Mr. Olympia.
Okay.
And, no one's going to beat him because he looks fantastic. He looked fantastic for over 40. So he trained really hard in 94 to win the Masters Mr. Olympia. But as we know, Robby Robinson beat him at the contest and Lou got second. So.
All right.
But
well, it makes for a good documentary. And guys,
documentary, like how they prepared for the show. And I think Boyer Coe also was featured in the documentary as well.
All right. Well, we'll see about that. And guys, if you're new to our content, let me encourage you to subscribe and hit the bell. We have several bodybuilding podcasts that come out each week, tons of education and entertainment. All of our programming is brought to you by TrueNutrition.com. Use our code THINK for additional savings. We are brought to you by SupplementSource.ca for Canadians. And of course, we're brought to you by everybody from Patreon. Thank you guys for all your support over there. And reach out to John if you guys want to do any coaching with him. You can reach out to me as well. John, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
The website is johnhansenfitness.com.
Okay, cool. Check out John's podcast too. So quality here is not necessarily the greatest, but I still could tell you that was Lou based off of watching this right now because of the hair and the body structure alone. You know what I mean?
This looks like a really young Lou Ferrigno. He was probably 20, 21 years old here, maybe younger.
Okay. And now, did he train? So we're at World's Gym. Did he train at World's?
Yeah, so back in the early 90s, 80s, of course, too, they had World's Gym and they had Gold's Gym. So there was pretty much two distinct camps. They had the Gold's Gym crowd and the World's Gym crowd. And Lou was good friends with Joe Gold, the owner of World's Gym. So him and Arnold and Franco, they all trained at World's Gym.
Okay.
Now here's that's Eddie Giuliani.
Was he the same guy that jumped into Arnold's arms?
Yeah, so they're recreating the scene from Pumping Iron, right?
Yeah.
Getting ready for
and that's Lou's old training partner, Ira. He was from Brooklyn, and he used to train with Lou back in the day. So he got Ira to come and train with him for his preparation for the Masters Olympia.
How old is Lou here now?
He probably was about 44, maybe.
Okay.
I think he was 42 when he came back in 92. Let's see. He was born in 51, so we can do the math. This is 94. So 43, maybe. 42, 43.
All right. So not too old. You're still in a good place for bodybuilding in your 40s, you know?
Yeah. But he had a long layoff, Scott. His last Mr. Olympia was 1975 when they filmed Pumping Iron, and he never competed again until 1992. So that was a long layoff.
Did he start
the Hulk and everything?
Okay, so he started Incredible Hulk at that time.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was supposed to go in the Olympia in 77, and he was in California all year training for the Mr. Olympia. And it was the first time he moved to California.
Yeah.
Because he lived in New York his whole life. And he was like a couple weeks out from the Olympia, and then they gave him this offer to do the Hulk.
Yeah.
So he dropped out of the Olympia. And I think he could have probably won the Olympia that year because he was really looking good. Everybody thought it was going to be between him and Robby, and then Frank Zane ended up winning.
Okay. Yeah, man, that Incredible Hulk role, I think, is where he really became a household name. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Peeling down.
43 years old.
43.
310 pounds, 6 feet 5 inches, making Lou the largest bodybuilder to have ever competed. Assisted by his best friend Ira Bankovsky, Lou has emerged from a 19-year retirement to compete in this year's Masters Olympia.
The main reason why I came back is because I want people to think I was a has-been. I really want to turn this into my ultimate dream, to be a world champion again after over the age of 40, because I never won Miss Olympia and I want to be the best. The reason why people want to be Miss Olympia because they want to say, I am the best built man on the planet, the world, the best of the best. There's only one Miss Olympia. You could be Miss Universe, you could be Miss America, you could win the national. But Miss Olympia means you are number one.
Let's go.
Wait, there's one Mr. Olympia, but he's also the Masters Olympia is what he's going for here. So,
Yeah, he didn't really explain that.
yeah.
Masters Olympia is really the Super Bowl of professional bodybuilding. It was an idea that Joe Weider had thought about for a really long time, and it was to bring back all these former greats who had been in a previous Olympia. And what it was to get all these all-time greats that many of the people remembered going back as much as 20 or 25 years, to get them on stage again.
It's a long one. 2.
Well, I think that I can totally understand if anyone wants to come back and compete in the Mr. Olympia competition. It is just a very...
Arnold Schwarzenegger,
Arnold looked young then.
7-time Mr. Olympia.
To come back out of retirement and to get back into the swing again and to get that momentum going and the rhythm going of training and to create the hunger, which is the most important thing, to create the will and the hunger to train 4 or 5 hours a day and to be that competitive when you get to the competition.
They did what?
That you would do
Arnold looks like how he did in Terminator 2.
He does, doesn't he?
Yeah.
You will do it. That is the kind of will and hunger that you need.
Was he about Lou's age?
He's 4 years older.
4 years older, so he's in his mid-40s at this point.
5%,
Yeah.
you're going to lose the competition. So that's the most dangerous thing to do, is to go back and maybe not create that hunger and that will anymore. And I think that is the obstacle that Lou Ferrigno has to overcome.
Important thing is, on stage, you want to be in the best shape, but everything is in the mind. So I felt that what Ira and I put together, no one knows better than the two of us. But I put myself in the position of, okay, I'm not going to fight with you for the contest. You see, I really need something to do, tell me. Because in the past, I would fight with him because I want to make sure to be a winner. I have to maximize every body part. I would pose to him after every workout. He would check my progress. But the most important thing is this time compared to years ago is the mind. Putting the mind into it, and nothing's going to stop us. If you got pain, you work around the pain, you wrap it, you ice it, you got to do it.
Good. Then the prejudging saying in there, you have that folding. It looks fine. It looks very good. I like it. A little bit more of a line, a little bit more separation. All right, come on, D. Last set. Let's go.
First, I think it's a real exciting contest. I know that I'm going to be really. I'm just really anxious to go see it. I was originally invited.
Don
by
Ross,
Joe Weider to come
bodybuilding journalist.
They said that Wayne D'Amelia said he wants to keep it to just former Olympia contenders. Or people that have been in the Olympia. So what we're going to see now is people that you've read about for years and years in magazines. For the competitors
they're really hyping this thing up.
It's going to be like a high school reunion. It's going to be really great. And for the rest of us, I probably have to hold back tears because it's going to be like seeing my old friends up there again. People I used to compete with, people that I read about and I interviewed years and years ago. It's going to be really nice.
Yeah, Don competed a lot in the late 60s, early 70s. He had a pretty good physique, very vascular. I don't think he ever competed in the IFBB. He was doing more like the AAU, and then he went to the WBBG, Dan Laurie's organization.
I never even heard of the WBBG.
Yeah, Dan Laurie was like a rival of Joe Weider.
Okay.
And then he created his own magazine, Muscle Training Illustrated, and then he had his own organization called WBBG.
Huh.
And
Where were they out of?
Called like Mr. Olympus, which was like a takeoff of Mr. Olympia, you know?
Yeah. Where were they out of? Was that also out of like Los Angeles area?
He was in New York, I think.
New York. Okay.
Yeah.
WBBG. Yep. Never heard of them.
At 48
And this is
years
Boyer
of age,
Coe.
Boyer believes he can defeat Lou and win the Masters Olympia title.
I like that machine.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite machines from Hammer Strength. I don't like the close grip handle. I like that one. Exactly what he's doing. Just maybe my technique would look a little different. Try to keep my chest toward the pad. Just really great for the lower lats.
For me, it's something that I've always wanted to do. I mean, being big and strong goes as far back as I was 5 years old. I used to either buy the bodybuilding magazines when I had money, and when I didn't have money, I'd steal them from the grocery store and look at the pictures. And I remember it had to have been 5 years old because I couldn't read. All I could do was look at the pictures. But at that time, and I wasn't at that time really clear that you used weights to build a big, strong body like that. I just knew that when I grew up, that's what I wanted to look like. I recall my grandfather had a barber shop, and I used to shine shoes in his barber shop, you know, when I was 14, 15 years old. And I used to tell people who I'd be shining their shoes that I was going to be Mr. America one day.
Yeah.
And these guys would politely look down from their newspaper and nod their heads, and I'm sure they had no idea what the hell Mr. America even was, much less this skinny little kid in front shining their shoes was going to be Mr. America. But I believed in myself. And I think a lot of that has to do from basically everything that you do.
Where was he from?
Is a product
Louisiana.
of your environment.
Okay, I heard that accent. I wasn't sure.
I think my parents instilled
Boyer.
in me
That
a
sounds
very
like it'd be a
strong
Louisiana name.
work
Yeah,
ethic
right.
and then, a
So
strong
how
belief
old
in
was he
myself.
about
So
at
I
this time,
believe
if you
that
remember,
anything
John?
I tackled and I continued to put
He
to
was
effort.
about Arnold's age, so he was born
Okay.
in 46.
Okay. See, guys, I'm telling you, John knows literally freaking every detail about every bodybuilder from this era, especially.
I love Boyer. He's a great guy. I've had him on my Bodybuilding Legends podcast several times. He's very articulate, great stories, very honest, just a really good guy.
Do me a favor, send me a link to one of those, and I'll drop
Okay.
that in the description so people can go and hear more from Boyer.
Yeah, absolutely.
With Brunson, he and I are about the same size, we're about the same strength level, and he again is very determined, has a high degree of intensity, puts everything in his workout. He pushes me, I push him. It's a friendly competition. I mean, many times if it's just him and I in the gym, we can go through the whole workout, but probably not saying more than, you know, how much weight you want on this exercise or something. In other words, because we're so in tune with working out.
The training part is exciting.
So
Yeah.
was he still in Louisiana here, or where's he at?
He moved to California, I think, in the late 70s. So I think he's still in California to this day.
Okay. This doesn't look like Gold's. It doesn't look like World's either, does it?
Yeah, it looks like another gym. I don't know where he was training.
It looks like they got heavy dumbbells, though.
He and I first
Yeah.
met back in 1981. That's
Did you see the boom came in there for a minute?
Yeah.
Boom dropped in.
Well, Louie's just a big guy. I mean, if Louie didn't have the height that he had, you know, which obviously makes him stand out, I don't think you'd even notice him. It's just the fact that he's so much taller and bigger than everybody else. And undoubtedly, he enjoys a great popularity because he was fortunate enough to be in that Hulk series. He has a lot of press. But as far as being a bodybuilder that I say that I fear or that I am concerned about in competition, I'm not in the least. In other words, when he decided
He's got some thick arms on
make
him.
a comeback,
Oh, he's got huge arms.
Look at the size of his hands compared to his forearm and his arm.
Yeah.
So I'm in a sense kind of like the father telling the son what to do. So this time it's like the father competing against the son. It's like the old bull competing, or the old lion competing against the young lion. Old lion never tells all the secrets.
I think what they were trying to do here was they were trying to make Boyer like the bad guy.
Yeah, yeah.
And they were kind of like creating a scenario like Pumping Iron did, where they Arnold, I don't know if Boyer would really sound like that, if he was just being himself.
You think they were like feeding him those lines that they're like, hey, we want you to kind of do this. We're going to make some entertainment out of it.
I think probably they tried to create kind of like a docudrama like Pumping Iron was, where they tried to create these, rivalry. And I don't even know if they knew Robby was going in it, because I don't think he's in this movie at all. So
you're kidding me.
I think Robby was like kind of a last minute entry.
Yeah,
a win for sure. And then Robby came in and beat him with his incredible shape, with his small waist and everything.
Yeah. So it looks like he's doing an interview here. I'm going to run forward just a little bit, see what this is all about. This does not look like the show.
Okay, middleweight, we're waiting for you.
This is an NBC show.
He's doing middleweights. Probably. This is probably like a contest. Because I know after he competed in '92 Olympia, he was on the guest posing tour, for a couple of years,
Okay. Did you ever see him guest pose?
No, I never did. No.
Would you have still been in the Chicago area at this time?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Man, I would have loved to have trained at Quad's gym back in the day, like years back. That would have been cool. There in what is the other one? USA Gym.
USA Gym. That's where I was going. Yeah.
Oh, you were going to USA. Okay.
Yeah. Quads was a little bit far for me, so I was going to USA. Chuck Sano still owns that.
Yeah. I hear that's a rough area that he's in.
Yeah, south side of Chicago.
South side, yeah.
Every day I wake up, every day I improve. I better
now,
my
Louie,
life.
he was in the Pumping Iron. He was about 275.
Okay.
That was in the mid-70s, of course, 1975. But here we are now 20 years later, and he was using the new supplements that were available. And now he was over 300 pounds. I mean, probably way over 300 pounds, probably like 320, 330, so.
Yeah.
I mean, much, much, much bigger than he ever was before,
I'll tell you what, too, man, and you tell me what you think, John, because you have even more experience than me. But I can tell you that I had to really push and eat hard to have the muscle I did in 2012. Then now, by 2020, I spent several years basically like Lou, pretty much retired from competing. Focusing on the channel, focusing on my coaching and all of that, but obviously still training along the way. The muscle just keeps going on. You know what I mean? Even if you're not trying super hard. So I bet you that was a factor too.
As you get older. Yeah.
You what?
I think your metabolism changes as you get older, and then you have that muscle maturity,
Yeah. Yeah, so I see what they're doing here. They're really trying to hype him up as the favorite. And I guess it would have maybe been even a more successful documentary had he actually won the thing.
Yeah. You notice the camera angle, like from behind him, is that they did that in Pumping Iron too.
Oh, so yeah. It's basically the same angles.
Pumping Iron a lot.
Let's see, I'm going to skip forward just a little bit here. We get back to some training. We won't be able to watch the whole thing in its entirety, so we're just going to skip a little bit at a time.
Doing the opposite, you last one's always your worst. Today you last.
Back in the gym here.
10.
Okay, Ira, he passed away a few years ago, and I know he was a real good friend of Lou's.
Yeah.
Lou, I think, I'm not sure if he was in California at the time, but I think Lou might have even brought him out from New York just to train with him.
Oh, no kidding.
Manager of World Gym and longtime friend of Lou.
There's if anybody loves bodybuilding, if you pick the top 10 guys that are in love with this bodybuilding game for longevity, the long time, the long span of it, he'd have to be way up there. He's totally dedicated and in love with this. It's a part of his life, Louie, that never was fulfilled. If Louie wins or loses the Olympia, Louie will always be a champion. What he's doing now is fulfilling a dream. And the dream that he's fulfilling, it'll be fulfilled in Louie's eyes. But that's what he's doing. He's fulfilling a personal dream of himself. As far as the people go, Louie is...
Yeah, it's that shot.
another planet. And so Louie is a superstar right now. Louie will always be a champion.
Did you ever see him on that King of Queens TV show?
Yeah, I did a couple of times. Yeah.
Yeah, he was kind of like a regular, recurring kind of side character.
He's not symmetrical, you know.
Oh.
He's awesome, but if you really come down to body parts, it's just one good body part. I think it's his traps. I mean, that's it, you know. As far as Boyer, he has everything, you know. A little this, little that. It's like a good all-around package.
But Boyer was probably coming back after like a 10-year layoff because he was in the '84 Olympia that Lee Haney won.
Okay.
And I don't think he competed after that. So this was '94. So yeah, this was 10 years later.
Okay.
And he does Boyer have that, around, you know, like 200 pounds, 205 pounds. And I remember for this show, he was about 225 or 230.
Okay.
So I asked him on my podcast, I said, what did you do to get so much bigger?
Yeah.
And he goes, I cut back on my training. I was doing more high intensity training. And he goes, I took a lot of growth hormone and steroids. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, they'll do it for you.
What did you do, Boyer?
Yeah, because they had growth by then. But man, I bet it was freaking expensive in those days.
Yeah, everybody was using synthetic growth hormone in the early 90s. So that accounts for his 20-pound muscle gain, you know.
Yeah. I remember seeing in the back of a magazine, John, where they used to have, you know, like you go in the back of Flex and there'd be an ad, like, you know, call this number or whatever to get, you know, actual growth. Yeah, yeah. And I called the number, man, and I was like, man, I can't remember how old I was, but I was a kid still. And they were like, yeah, you know, we'll fly you, you know, you have to fly down to Cancun, Mexico, and we'll give you a prescription and the medications and send you home with it and everything. Obviously, there was no way I could afford that, you know?
Yeah.
Then that's the satisfaction I get out of it. But it's the total result that you get from being the best you can be. Because you got to look at a contest, a bodybuilding contest is only
thick,
a matter of an opinion.
Yeah, very thick.
Of some other people.
His only weak point was he didn't have abdominals for some reason. You know, he worked them, but they just weren't there. You know, everybody used to really criticize him about that.
Is it? He looks like he has a shorter torso.
Yeah, he does. Yeah,
and I think sometimes those guys with the shorter torsos, you tend to distend more, and you tend to not have as much as like a guy like Dennis Wolf being the opposite of that. You know, like long torso, high lats.
Right.
Kind of, you know, opposite shape.
Well, I mean, Boyer had that his whole life. You know, even when he was younger, he never really had abdominals.
Yeah.
This must be Lou's home training.
From Louie towards Arnold.
Oh, okay.
Because I know he got into personal training for a while, too. He was training a lot of celebrities. Like, I think he was training Michael Jackson at one time.
You're kidding me.
Yeah. And I think he might have even had like a trailer full of weights, and he would drive to the client's house, and they would just go into his trailer, and he would train them there.
Imagine that.
I think Louie had something to do with convincing Joe to lower the age to 40 so he would be allowed to enter, which is fine. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I don't give a damn who enters.
I feel like Boyer is more of a champion here, the way he's talking.
Yeah. Oh, Joe Weider, okay.
This is Joe Weider calling him.
Not staged at all.
No. Hey, Joe, call me right now. We got the cameras rolling.
Yeah.
It's Joe Weider.
Maybe it's not staged.
Read my mind every time I'm in the middle of training. Let's see what you want. You probably want to know how my process is going. I'm working on my post. Hi, Joe. How you doing? What's happening? Well, I came out. I had no money. I received only, I think, $200 or $300 with the guest posting fee. I was so determined not to go home because I figured it was my only chance to stay in California. So I slept on the beach for 2 weeks.
Is that Chuck Norris?
I had no money because, you know, food really adds up. I called Joe. I begged Joe. I said, Joe, please, I don't want to go home. Please give me a contract. I really want to stay here. I want to train for the Mr. Olympia. I convinced him that I was not going to leave bodybuilding. So from that time on, I started to do posing exhibitions and make California my home, like a dream coming true, because I know going home, I was not going to be a happy person. And Joe, saved my life.
Okay. All right, Joe, bye-bye.
So you see, when I brought him here, I thought at that time he would be able to pull himself together. And I worked with him, I encouraged him, and was preparing him to enter the Miss Olympia. And I believed that he would have won at that time, because you know who he was competing against. They were not these great champions. They were not that heavily developed. His size, his muscularity was awesome. And if he trained a whole year, I was sure that he was going to win the Olympia and for a couple of years thereafter.
Man, back in the day, you could just beg for a contract from Joe Golds, and then or Joe Weider, and then you get to stay in California if you're good enough, huh?
Yeah.
I was a different person. I lied about my parents, saying I always thought I had perfect parents. I always thought I had the kind of family like you would see on Father Knows Best. It wasn't like that in my house. It was the opposite. I carry all his guilt and anger because he projected all the feelings on me, because he had other friends who were policemen. They raved about this son. My son is in school. My son is doing this. He's getting this on the test. And then he would come home and say, look at my son, this and this, which is sad. But I think the fact that he could not relate to me having a handicap, so instead he resented himself, probably hated himself, the fact that he had an imperfect son, that he did something wrong. So we have really no bond, no connection. Well, you know, the sad thing is, when I was the champion, I was the winner, I thought he loved me. He couldn't accept me losing. He only showed interest if there was ways of making money, for me getting attention, but he couldn't see his son losing. He can't accept defeat. You know, we have many incidents. I mean, it was like a love and hate relationship. Everything my father wanted to be, imagined to be, I've become. He said, if you had your hearing, you're going to be a great athlete. If you had your hearing, you'll be a popular like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
So
if you had your
I
hearing,
heard that initially I heard rumors that like his dad was really like his dad. So first of all, pumping iron, they made it look like his dad was his coach. Right. And I had heard that he had all these resentments toward his dad and stuff for coaching him and all that. But then find out later, his dad really didn't coach him, right?
Yeah. So like he said, his dad was always hard on him because he was deaf.
Yeah.
And, you know, he wanted like a perfect son, and his son had Lou had a handicap. So then he was always hard on him. So Lou was always really skinny growing up. And then he got into bodybuilding, started lifting weights, and he was a huge bodybuilding fan. Lou saw like the Mr. Olympia back in 1969 when it was in Brooklyn. Actually, he saw it in 1966 when it was in Brooklyn at the Brooklyn Academy of Music. So he saw like one of the first Mr. Olympias as a kid.
Yeah.
And then once he started training, he grew really quick, and he was a big teenager. You know, he's 6'5", and then he won. He won the Mr. America, IFBB America, and Universe when he was only like 21 years old.
Okay.
And then he won the Universe again at 22, and then he went to the Olympia against Arnold at 22 years old.
Yeah.
But Arnold was just more experienced, and Arnold beat him. And then like when they made Pumping Iron, his dad acted as his coach, and they thought that would be good for the movie. But he said in reality, his dad was never his coach. He always trained by himself, you know.
Yeah.
So his dad wanted to be famous. You know, his dad wanted to be in the movie. So his dad wanted to, that's why he kind of created this role for himself.
Yeah.
But Lou kind of resented that. And then Lou said after he lost the Olympia to Arnold and Serge Nubret, his dad was like, called him a loser, you know.
Oh,
and just,
God.
Yeah, he just wasn't supportive at all. And in fact, in 1976, Lou didn't even compete in bodybuilding. I mean, after Arnold retired, you would have thought Lou would have won in the Olympia against Franco.
Right,
and instead he goes to Toronto, and he tries to play football for the Toronto Argonauts.
Man, he probably would have beat Franco too, because they like tall guys, right?
Yeah. I mean, it would have been definitely between him and Franco and Zane, you know.
Let's hear what Arnold has to say here. Arnold's back.
In you that you're meant to win this contest, then that faith in yourself and that vision that you have of winning, that is what will carry you there. That is what will take you through the hours and hours of working out, through the pounds and tons of lifting weights. But if you have to first get your act together and first have to set your mind, that means that you didn't have it.
Arnold's always got those insightful champion tips, doesn't he? You got some chiropractic stuff here?
He's really hard to adjust, especially his lower back. I sent him for some x-rays, and they had a tough time getting the x-rays through him because he's so thick. And it's all muscle.
Yeah, right.
They figured out the factors it would take to x-ray somebody his size, and it didn't work. They had to triple it because somebody his size is usually fat. He's 310 pounds of muscle. So yeah, it's definitely a challenge to work on. Move. Just relax, man.
Just run it forward a little bit more here.
Just relax.
More anxiety. But I mean, as I said earlier in the press conference, I haven't changed anything in the last 10 years. I've trained just as hard as I would if I would have been competing. So I didn't really have to do anything special to get in shape for this contest. And one of the things that I feel very good about is after training some 34 years, and doing a lot of things right, a lot of things wrong, I believe at 48, and I hope to prove that tomorrow, that this is the best shape I've ever been in my life.
God forbid, I'm hoping I don't draw a blank when
Bill
I get
Grant,
up.
45 years old, 225 pounds, 6 feet tall, a Mr. America and Mr. World who came out of retirement to compete in tomorrow's event.
You kind of miss it when you're not there. You miss that.
Do you remember how he did, John?
And when you're on that stage, I mean, it's just you.
He was. I don't think he was in the top 5. But,
okay.
What's interesting, guys, they had a lot of old champions come for this first one. I think they looked at it as like a one-time event. Maybe they didn't know if they're going to keep going. So they had like Lou, they had Robby, they had Boyer, they had Chris Dickerson, Danny Padilla, Bill Grant. So a lot of old timers that used to come, used to compete in the Olympia. They were all coming back. So it was pretty exciting, to see all these guys come back after 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Lou had a lot of muscle, but he really didn't have great shape.
No, he didn't. Yeah, he was. And I think with the growth and stuff, his waist got a little wider,
Oh, okay. I mean, very impressive. Don't get me wrong. I want to take anything away from him,
Yeah, huge guy, for sure.
What did we say? I think I saw something. He had claimed he was like 305 pounds and 1% body fat or something like that for this show. Something along those lines.
Well, I know from 92 to 93. I think 92 was his first year back at the Olympia. That was the year Dorian Yates won in Helsinki, Finland. Okay. And I think he might have gotten a little nervous, over-dieted a little bit. And then when he came back the next year, he was like 30 pounds bigger.
Dang.
He was. Yeah, so he didn't make the same mistakes. The other thing that he had here, which was, I don't know if the camera will show it, he had calf implants, which looked really bad.
He had.
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
Did he eventually
had kind of high calves? They weren't really small. They were developed, but they were just a little high.
Yeah.
So he put in calf implants this year.
You're kidding me. Did he eventually get them taken out or what?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. You'll see him if the camera comes back.
All right, I'm going to look for a picture, too. I have to bring this up.
But what's amazing about Lou is, I really think he's like a bodybuilder's bodybuilder. This guy loves bodybuilding. And despite all the success and all the money he made doing the Hulk and then any other TV shows he might have done or whatever, I'm sure he made a lot of money doing the Hulk with the syndication and everything.
Yeah,
I really feel in his mind he always wanted to be Mr. Olympia, and he probably always wonders, what would have happened if I would have just kept competing in 1977 and I wouldn't have got that Hulk role? Would I have won? Could I have been Mr. Olympia, 3, 4, 5 times, when Frank Zane was winning it? Yeah, here's the calf implant.
I can't blow that up any bigger, but yeah, there's no question there. That's suspicious.
There's Lonnie Teeper. He used to write for Iron Man.
Veins all over the place. His abs are in. In my column, I predict Robbie Robinson to win this show, but I'm starting to think, you know what, LT? You maybe have made a mistake, a very big mistake, because that's one huge monster there. And I think of Lou Ferrigno as the Hulk on TV, this big green monster coming out of your screen into your living room, and now he's going to be coming out of the posing day right into my seat in the front row. I can't wait.
Lonnie is like an ultimate fan of the sport, you know?
Yeah. Lonnie was great.
It's like all camaraderie.
But it sounded like you knew Robbie was going in it.
Together.
Oh, yeah.
Participating in an event, reliving a lot of the past. It's really great to see all the fellas again, and I'm anxious to see what they look like and what they have accomplished.
All right.
Well, that's a good voice, didn't he?
Oh, and uncanny.
Here. Chris Dickerson, here. Lou Ferrigno's here.
Yes.
Herman Hoffman, here. Olaf Arms, here. Danny Padilla, here.
Danny Padilla.
Louie was ready. Louie was as ready as one human being could be for a contest.
They don't even mention Robbie.
I know that we've done everything.
You know that Robbie's name was mentioned on that list, right?
Yeah.
And if he was the winner, that they don't even mention. They don't even show where they call him. You know what I mean?
They won't even show him in the movie.
Yeah.
There's Dickerson, there's Lou.
Is that Zane there?
Professional competition is judged in the
yeah.
afternoon before the night show finals. This round of judging establishes the placement of each competitor on a 3-round point system.
94.
Judges look
Did
for
what?
symmetry, proportion,
This was all part of the Mr. Olympia weekend in Atlanta, Georgia in 1994. Yeah.
Okay. So this happened the same time as the normal Olympia.
Yeah, I think they probably did it on Friday night, maybe the night before.
Oh, that'd be wild, man.
Each other, for example, doing quarter turns,
There's Bill
doing front
Graham.
double biceps, doing side chest, doing all the mandatory poses. You want
Bill
to
still
sit
looks
next to
great.
each other
He's
because
like in his
everybody looks
mid-70s.
great standing.
He's still in
by
good shape.
themselves.
He's still got big arms. There's Danny Padilla.
Whatever happened to Danny Padilla?
He's still out in Rochester doing personal training.
Is he really?
Yeah.
He had, he's like my favorite short guy, and I really like the look of his physique.
Incredible physique. There's Troy Zuccolotto.
Oh yeah.
Front double bicep. Here you go, the biceps.
Same
there's
thing.
Robbie.
Chest
That-
is great though too.
Oh yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
Boom. Look at the pizza.
Robbie's just amazing.
This whole scene, they're trying to mimic again pumping iron. The guys in the
Yeah,
audience
people in
talking
the
about him.
audience, right.
You
Robbie
know?
Robinson, 210 pounds, 5 feet 9 inches, 48 years old, a surprise entry who has come from Oslo, Norway, to compete in this year's competition. Robbie believes he can beat Lou and Boyer for the overall title.
Look at how small his waist is from the back.
Once he gets his lat spread and then he comes with that rear double bicep, that's still to me.
yeah.
Right here, look at that. Bam.
48 years old, no?
Look at those biceps.
Proud of him.
I hope they show them together.
Look at his glutes.
Unbelievable.
Everything's pretty tight.
There's Boyer. Look how big his arms look.
Come on, show the whole shot. Let's see him from the front.
Yes.
I don't care about this.
Put the camera in front.
Biceps, don't he?
I know, it'd be neat seeing him and Robbie next to each other.
Rear double bicep. Veiny, yeah.
Look at his legs. I mean, there's got veins in his legs, his calves.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
We're still waiting to see him here.
He's got great arms. He's got good triceps and biceps.
There we go. Oh yeah, he looked good. Thick as hell.
You know, in general,
Yeah.
you're always trying to bring
Real
up
thick.
every area. So in other words, I've
Yeah,
never
great
really
cat.
viewed one area in my particular instance as outstanding or one that's, in other words, I've always trying to bring everything up. I've never been satisfied with the way my arms looked or my legs or back or anything. You just
Got you
continue
ever
to
see
work.
that Flex
you know,
magazine show they did where Sean Ray and Boyer Coe, and they'd have a guest on. They would do workouts and stuff.
Oh, it's been years, but yeah.
Yeah, that was in like the early 90s. I think they had Flex Wheeler on. They had Kevin Levrone, Lee Priest. They'd have a guest on every week, but it was Boyer and Sean that were doing the show. And Boyer looked huge back then. I don't know how old he was then.
Yeah.
But he was in great shape back then.
I would say legs are the knock here. His legs looked pretty straight up and down. And I think
Yeah, they
that might
always
just
were
be
like that.
Okay, and it might be the element of age making that a little more pronounced, especially if his upper body is even bigger and rounder, you know?
Yeah, his legs were always kind of narrow, but I saw him once when I was a kid. I saw him guest pose. He did a seminar at a gym, and then he came out and they had a special light, and he came out and he posed in his posing trunks.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe how good his legs looked in person.
Yeah.
Just from the hardness and the separation. He had huge calves. Like, they didn't look the same as they did in the magazines, you know?
Okay. Well, Lou's not beating him on legs either, so there's that.
Lou's tan looks a little weird, too.
It's hard to tell, but I see what you mean.
Looked like kind of weird on his face.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good shot on him.
Yeah, he's in good shape.
You've got to be totally focused. You know, you can have all the goods, but if you don't have your mindset on and ready to do battle more or less against everybody else, then you're pretty much defeated.
Troy Zuccolotto.
It looks like he has dream tan on.
Professional
Yeah, he does.
I think it's psychologically, you prepare yourself more like a football player or a basketball player. The same as goes through bodybuilding. If you can have the physique, but if you don't mentally have it to go up there and stand in the prejudging tensed all the time where you get drained. I mean, to stand there flexed through a whole prejudging that lasts about 2 hours, you know, you're physically drained. So if you're not mentally prepared and physically prepared, like in football, you can be defeated before you even step on stage.
There's the top three.
That's great. What I've seen today, you know, again, it depends on the judging. I think they all have come in incredible shape, better than I've ever seen any of them. I think if you're judging on symmetry, I think Robby is the best as far as symmetry goes. If you're looking at overall freakness, size, shape, just monster, then you got to give it to Louie Ferrigno. If you're going for hardness, what kind of condition a bodybuilder's in, then you got to give it to Boyer.
In balance.
So really, all three of them could win this show. It just depends on what type of judging, what type they're looking for today.
I would have liked to have seen a shot of all three of them together. I think they're getting better at that. Did you notice? Did you watch the live stream of the Olympia this past year?
Yeah.
Do you notice they did do more straight-on shots? Like they kept the camera where we want to see it more, you know?
Yeah.
Guys having the same problem, so it's not something that was only involved with just myself. So it's not anything big. You know, I didn't have any cramps, or I didn't shake, or it's not any anxiety going on stage. I mean, it's like I mentioned earlier. Once it's kind of like riding a bicycle. Once you do it, you don't forget how to do it. You know.
You streaked all over here and your back. Look at the chest here.
We gotta get all that shit off. We got time to work on it. 2 hours. Why are you sweating? Well,
they're talking about his tan streaking.
Yeah. I swear it looked like he had dream tan on.
Yeah, maybe he did.
You know, it's streaky. And look, when you turned around, you can see the blotches running here. You see it's all blotched. I mean, straight on. Okay.
I'm gonna look him up here.
Condition-wise, that's what now came.
Lou, give you this number. Sorry, give you number. Are you gonna get pictures?
Lynn, how do we get back to the hotel?
There's a shuttle out here.
There's a shuttle.
Yeah, maybe not. I'm looking at no, that's the 92. Never mind.
No, after you went back out, and you got that stuff wiped off and the oil put on, and you came out for the second round, I thought you looked much, much better. And then by the third round, you looked by far the best. Louie here, I got your I got your wallet.
Lou's chest was huge too.
It really was.
I think that was his best body.
Yeah, look at his shoulders
The
too.
one thing I think that was always the same for me seeing Lou was that I know him so well, and I know the kind of tenacity that he has. He has
It's his wife, Carla.
the quality that I admire so much in another
they still
person.
together?
That he is a champion. He has a champion mentality. I am the opposite of him. I'm a woman who started out very young doing 5 million things, and I can do them all really well. But I've never focused on one thing, blocking out all the rest, and me becoming a true champion that can win, all these great awards. I never did that. I do all the other things that make me happy. Him, he had one direction, and that's what I see in champions in all areas, is that quality. To blank it all out, do the one thing they love, and be the best in the world at it.
The competition is in progress, and the judges have cut the field to 5 for the final pose down.
Here we go, John. You ready?
I think Dickerson made the top 5. Who's the other guy? Might be Hubert Metz. No, I don't know this.
Oh man, that denim sleeveless shirt with the collar.
You have guys competing there where you know from the first minute when you see them on stage that they're never going to win, nor do they believe they're going to win. They should have another contest. They have a losers contest or something like that, but not in this competition. In this competition, it's winning, it's beating, it's destroying the other people, and that's it. You should be standing out there as the victor on top of the pedestal, get this gold medal around it, get this trophy, take the $100,000 and go home and say, I was the best. That's what it's all about. If you want to do something else, then you have to do something else. Run a gym, train people, or do something else. But I mean, don't go in the Olympia.
My whole life I've carried this suit of armor, this 300-pound suit of armor, because it was my protection. I come to the realization that people love Lou for me, for who I am, not because I'm the 300-pound Hulk or the 300-pound bodybuilder. The title was not the answer to my happiness.
There's Dickerson.
You don't have to really have a trophy or be on stage.
So I feel
and be
like
a champion to make
a lot of people turned against Lou with the whole autograph thing.
Yeah.
Where he charged people $10 or whatever to sign pictures.
Right.
I feel like a lot of people had a bad taste left in their mouth because of that.
I heard
he
that
still does that.
I heard that was his wife's influence.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the level of
that other guy is
competition.
Oli Vanis from Russia.
Okay.
He used to be pretty good years ago, but he was
Of course.
obviously coming back too.
Of course you knew who he was.
Mr. Olympia
Instead of getting a
competition,
look up.
just for the joy of competing. It is utter nonsense if anyone thinks that he can then win or that he can really show his best. The idea of competing is always that you show the best that you can be, and that can match up against anyone, and that you could beat anyone on your best day. That's why you go to compete. The idea of competing is that you want to show the world that you're number one.
We'll take that award to the third place finisher in a very close contest. To Boyer Coe.
Good job, Boyer. I liked him.
Yeah, I do too. He's a great guy.
In second place, receiving the silver Sandow medal, being presented by Richard Pizarro of Weider.
Look at Robby's arms. Jeez.
He will take the second place silver medal and give it to Lou Ferrigno.
Louie.
And the special Masters Olympia Sandow statue being given by Joe Weider
really
to the first ever IFBB Masters Olympia champion, Robby Robinson.
That's good. Robby finally got an Olympia.
Yeah.
He had a couple of close ones with Zane.
First of all, I'd like to thank Joe Weider for inviting me over, Wayne DeMaria.
Right, let me see what else we have
Chris
going
Sloan,
on here.
photographer. I also like to thank Jerry Fredericks for taking a lot of pictures and promoting me.
Fast forward a little
And
bit.
that I see the movie today, my
It's
heart drops
it's-
a little, and
it's
I'm hurt
Katz.
by it. So I really understand where Louie is coming from.
Yeah.
He was a
talking
judge.
to him after the competition with his disappointment. And it disappoints me because I've been there and I understand what his family went through, what he went through to compete, and what effort it took. Louie gave it the best that he could give. And Robby Robinson may have had an advantage in the competition because when you look at Robby's career, Robby has not stopped. Robby started at 18 years old. Robby's 47. And Robby Robinson has been competing over 30 years. And he's never out of condition, and he's never retired. So if anybody possibly had the edge because Boyer had retired and Louie had retired for a long time and made attempts to come back and has looked terrific, probably the person who would have had the biggest advantage to win, if any of them, it would have been Robby. And Robby looked a little bit more separated, possibly. Obviously, nobody in the world's as big as Louie.
It was Robby's shape.
And as far as I'm concerned, which I
Yeah,
told
I think
Louie,
there were some
whether
genetic factors there.
He wins the over 40 10 times. It will never magnify his name as one of the true legends of the sport. I compare him to Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig. I compare him to Johnny Unitas. I compare him to Jack Nicklaus, depending upon the sport that you're looking at. Louie is Louie.
Mike Katz is a good guy.
You don't ever have to say Louie who. When you say Big Mike, most people think of me. When it's Arnold, it's Schwarzenegger. When it's Big Louie, it's Lou Ferrigno. He doesn't have to prove anything to anybody. Louie Ferrigno is one of the most respected and loved bodybuilders and one of the truly great bodybuilders of all time, whether he was second, whether he was third, whether he won, whether he didn't. So my hats go off to him. He's one of the most loved and respected men that I've ever known, and he will always be a winner with me and with the rest of the world of bodybuilding.
Let's skip that a little bit here.
I have so much in my life. I have my family, my wife,
you do, Lou.
my children,
and you're going to be on
friend.
King of Queens pretty soon.
They still love me the same.
other
They
TV
still like me the
shows.
same. Just tired of not going to change my relationship with them.
All right.
And the most beautiful part.
So they're trying to wrap this up and turn it into like things are like it's still a successful documentary. Is the vibe I'm getting here. So,
I heard he was like super pissed when he got off stage. They should have filmed that part. I would have made for a more interesting movie.
all we saw was him right here. Let's see, right after so we just see him for a second. He walks away and we don't hear from him again until he's back home. And now he's composed.
After he was able to process it, right?
Yeah. And then it looks like they're going to is this at the show, or this probably at his guest posing?
Because it's time for me to move on.
Oh.
To do appearances.
He's doing like the Arnold retirement speech. He's doing like the Arnold retirement speech at the microphone, like they did in Pumping Iron.
Today, my love to you, especially all my fans. And I promise I will continue bodybuilding for the rest of my life. But thank you so much for having me here tonight. And it brings a little sadness to me, but goodbye and thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Man. What do you think, John? How was this movie?
It was okay. It was pretty good.
It was all right. It was a lot more fun watching it with you because you knew everybody and you could tell me all sorts of extra details that if I was just sitting here and the audience was just sitting here watching this on their own, they wouldn't know all that stuff. So you bring dimension. You make watching these things fun, man, or more fun.
Yeah, it looks like they were just trying to copy off of Pumping Iron, and this was going to be Lou's Mr. Olympia. This was going to be his, but unfortunately he lost to Robby. And the story I heard, I think John Romano said this, Robby was living in Norway at the time. He was out of the country, and he wasn't competing. I don't know when the last time he competed before this. And they reached out to him. Wayne DeMilia reached out to him and said, hey, we want you to compete. So then they brought him over from Norway, and then he ruined Lou's story.
Man. Well, good show nonetheless. I'll tell you what, too, man. I wish that they had the Masters Olympia at the actual Olympia. That would be cool, dude. I'd come in a day early to see that, Yeah.
It was kind of cool in the beginning because they did have a lot of those old time guys, and I think that's what they created it for. But then it just became any pro that was over 40. So then you didn't have the names from the 70s and the 80s. So it kind of lost its original intention, I think. But like Boyer said in the movie, I think they just created it. Joe Weider created that just for Lou. Because Joe Weider loved Lou Ferrigno. I did an interview with Rick Wayne, who was one of the best writers ever in bodybuilding. And he was around in the 60s and 70s, and he wrote for Joe Weider's magazine. And I did a long interview with him, and he told me that Joe had kind of a love-hate relationship with Arnold. Arnold was his main marketing guy, but Arnold was so he's such a smart ass. And he would, he was just always so biting type of humor, and Joe hated that. But he said
really?
he loved Lou Ferrigno because Lou was a nice guy and he wanted Lou to be the guy to go all the way. But he never did, he just never reached his potential as a youngster because he had that Hulk thing. And when he was competing against Arnold, it was like, if you saw pictures of him at 21, 22, he was amazing. He was a monster. He won the Mr. Universe against Mike Katz and Ken Waller, who were veterans, and he's 21 years old.
Yeah.
So amazing if he would have had the right coaching and if he would have went out to California and trained at Gold's and stuff, but he stayed in New York. And then when he was finally moving out to California and he was finally going to reach his potential in 77, and if you ever saw any pictures of him from 77 as he was leading into the contest, he was bigger and cut. He was really good. And he brought up his shape. He brought up his weak points. But then he got that Hulk thing right before. And the potential was never realized, And I think that's why he wanted to come back in the 90s because he just I think it was, I'm telling you, he could have made millions of dollars. He could be the most famous guy in the world, but he's a bodybuilder, he's a bodybuilder at heart. And I think it just bugs him that he never won Mr. Olympia,
Yeah.
I know how he is. He's a bodybuilder, man. I know it's just no matter how much money he's got or how much fame he's got, it still must gnaw at him. And, like what could have been, when you have that thing, like what could have been, it always bugs you, because you can't go back in time. You can't do it over. So you got to accept it the way life was,
Yeah, that sums it up really well. I think with the Masters thing too, bodybuilding has changed, so the guys who I couldn't imagine a lot of the guys who have competed and then retired continuing to push at the level they push to get to where they're at. I don't think they can hold that for 15 years and stay healthy,
Yeah, that's a good point too, Scott, because if you look at some of these guys in this movie, some of the guys from the 70s, like Robby, Lou, Chris Dickerson, Boyer Coe, like Boyer was competing and Chris Dickerson was competing in the early 60s.
Yeah, yeah.
So their careers lasted 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Who has that kind of longevity anymore where they can compete 30 years,
And it's a testament. Obviously Boyer said that he was pushing things to come back, but it's a testament though. One of the things we talk about on the channel a lot is using the least amount you can to get the most progress you can.
Right.
Using your training and your nutrition as the foundation. And heck, I'll tell you what, if you were to use, 70s level of gear, if you could achieve a physique that these guys had at like 75, hell, I think a lot of our listeners would take that, you know what I mean? Versus taking 3 times as much gear and maybe still only making the same amount of progress by the time they finish anyway.
I agree with you. I think that's exactly why these guys can't go 30 years, because of the stuff they're taking, their careers are much shorter because they burn out much faster.
Yeah.
Where, what were they even taking in the 70s? It had to be minimal amounts of, Boyer started competing at 16, so he had a long career.
Yeah.
That's 32 years,
We have a few people like that. Maybe I wonder, I'd be curious to know, what did Dexter Jackson use compared to some of the other guys? We know that he wasn't like a crazy intense trainer. He didn't push things like crazy in the gym. He had to eat a lot, right? But, and I'm not saying he didn't train hard, but I have a feeling he probably was able to coast along with the PEDs and not go quite as hard to keep up with like a Rolly Winkler,
Yeah. Maybe just the genetics and whatever he used was enough to get him there,
Yeah. You know what, too, back then, I guess, thinking a step further, a lot more, there weren't as many bodybuilders, right? There weren't as many good pros. And so maybe they were pros because they had those genetics to begin with. Whereas now there's more of a choice. I can push the gear really hard to be able to keep up with these guys for a period of time. But at the same time too, I don't want to take away from the new guys because the level that they're taking their physiques to today is so much further,
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, this is cool, John.
Boyer was really good as a teenager. I remember, he was winning titles at like 17 years old. He was winning like Mr. Texas at 17. He was crazy.
I believe it, man. I believe it. Well, this is cool, John. I appreciate you coming on and hanging out with us and
Thanks, I always
sharing.
love these shows with you.
Yeah, this is cool. It was like really, really nice to get your insights. And this is something I wanted to watch anyway. So getting to watch it with you is fun, number one. And then number two, you just bring so much more to, so much more color to it.
All right. Thanks. I appreciate it.
So people, check out the Bodybuilding Legends podcast. You're on YouTube. And of course, you're on audio podcast. And as we mentioned in the beginning, you've got your coaching. Where do they go again for that?
JohnHansenFitness.com.
All right.
And then you can go to Bodybuilding Legends Show, which is our official website for the Bodybuilding Legends podcast. But like you said, you could see that on, the Bodybuilding Legends podcast is on the audio, and then the YouTube channel is under my name, John Hansen. And I have all my videos there. Yeah.
I'll be sure to tag you in the description so people can go straight over and see that. And like I said, send me a link to one of your Boyer Coe interviews. I want to add that in there too. What do you have coming up?
Not much. I have a seminar coming up in Massachusetts, Sterling, Massachusetts, which is Jay Cutler's hometown.
Yeah.
And we have a seminar coming up with Lee Haney and Linda Murray and myself, and that'll be on March 9th. So, check that out if you guys are in the area. It's guaranteedfitness.org is the website where you would go to sign up. So if anybody's out on the East Coast and they want to go to the seminar, I mean, Lee Haney and Linda, I mean, just that alone with all that knowledge. So it's going to be a great seminar. It's going to be like a hands-on seminar where Linda's going to help with the posing and me and Lee are going to be doing stuff in the gym. So it's really going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to that.
That's freaking cool. Lee Haney he's just an awesome person, man.
He is.
I follow him on his Facebook and I see him post and everything all the time. So he's still a guy who's passionate about the sport.
Yeah, he's very passionate about making a difference in the future for the younger people. He's really pushing the training knowledge. He has his own training certification, and he wants me to help him with the history of bodybuilding and that, because he wants the young people coming up to know about the history of the sport. So he's very, very involved with making a difference in the future of the sport and in all the younger people coming up.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I got to say, I was just thinking about it. I've never met Lee Haney, but
really? Okay.
Yeah, I never have, but he'd be one of the few people I feel like I'd be like a little starstruck by to meet him.
Yeah. Yeah, you should have him on your show. I'm sure he'd come on. He's really open to that,
I'd freaking love to. I'll have to talk to you about talking to him and figuring something out then.
Okay. All
right, guys. Well, we appreciate you guys tuning in for another reaction video here. Do us a favor, comment, let us know what else you want to see, and bring John back on. John, I've gotten so much feedback of people saying that they love the videos that we've done so far.
I read some of the comments. That's awesome. Yeah, let's keep doing them.
All right, guys. We'll see you soon.